I guess let's continue talking about this alchemy because I think your connection to your ancestors is so beautiful and something we've talked about briefly in the past, but generational trauma is also real, right? And when we feel such a connection to lineage and this kind of genetic but also energetic gifts that we've been given in so many ways, I do think that there is this cycle breaker's mantle that many of us feel called to alchemize that experience into something gold, to use your words around it. Talk to me more about that and that experience and how it feels to be an alchemist.
Beautiful question. How does it feel to be an alchemist? It's not all puppies and rainbows, I assure you, dear listener. And I think listeners would probably know that, given everything that we know about the listeners. Thank God we're alive in a time where we have some awareness of genetics and epigenetics and how things are heritable across generations. Very interesting research happening in mouse models about
Mm-hmm.
what happens when mice are exposed to electric shocks, for example, and then 7 generations later that did not get exposed to electric shocks have reactivity at the sound of electricity. So we're alive in a time where a lot of the experience of inherited generational trauma and harms is validated by science. And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm grateful to be to know that, right? Because it's crazy making to, especially if you've just woken to the awareness that you may be called to be a cycle breaker,
Yeah.
right? And you're the lone wolf, so to say, in the wilderness, all by your lonesome. So how beautiful to have this expanded awareness around science and validating how those things are happening. So that's something that came to mind as you asked that question, because I'm a science girly. I love human evolution. I love thinking about things in that capacity. And so walking it back from science though, and bringing it like fully into the body, I think one thing that the psychedelic experience taught me was to just not push away physical sensations or like
Mm.
mental, things that come in. Like your brain brings thoughts to your mind sometimes for no reason and sometimes for reasons. And so, what it feels like to be connected in an embodied sense for me, there's a lot of sadness that comes with it. There's a lot of heaviness that comes with it. There's also a lot of beauty. There's a story of triumph, right? On my father's side, my grandfather was born in 1898. Most people's grandparents were not born at that time. And so, like, tracing that lineage back, there's just a few generations separating me from the British abolition of slavery in the West Indies. Knowing that there were only 2 generations that separated my own father, there's heaviness, but there's also compassion.
Mm.
And there's also some amount of appreciation. I say some amount because appreciation might not be the right word in the like immediate use of that word, like the most common use of appreciation, like I appreciate you, like I really value you. I'm using it in the sense of understanding, like something grave landing and being received and
Mm.
understood, which is that for me to exist, I know just a tip of the iceberg of what my father had to endure. I can only imagine what his father had to endure and his father's father. So the fact that any of those people survived
Yeah.
blows my mind. So there's also some like really magnetic, and when I say magnetic, the physical sensation is like when I think about it, it's like parts of me feel like they're rising to the surface of my skin in understanding that I'm a survivor too.
Mm.
And that in this legacy of survival and what I've been able to in this lifetime, what I've been able to achieve, where I've been able to go, what I've been able to do. I am beyond the wildest dream of my ancestors, beyond perhaps even their capacity to imagine where their great 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 grandchild might go.
Mm.
And so there's also this sensation of being held by and being cheered on by, because the struggles I'm facing are not the struggles they were facing.
Yeah.
So there's also this sense of my connection to them feels like a sense of them wanting the absolute best for me. So when I am tired, I rest because they could not. When I need medical care, I seek it because they could not. When I need mental health, I seek it because they could not. So there's also this sense of revolution,
Mm.
or it feels quite radical to invoke their name when I rest. I have goosebumps to say it
Mm-hmm.
because I think a lot of us don't think about that. And even if slavery isn't in your family's history, for most people, you are inheriting some intergenerational shenanigans. You are.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
there's
and yeah.
something there, especially as women.
Yeah.
The
Oh, yeah.
things that women have had to choose to not do that have been done to us over the millennia. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So,
I I do think there's something so radical in that, and I just love the word radical because it just feels so empowering to me. But yes, as women, but also as like I'm very aware also of like the generational, I don't like the word baggage, but kind of bag that we're picking up. It's like, also as a white person, what baggage am I holding that is also harm that has been done to others, not just harm that has been done to myself, right? As a woman and all of these other things. And how does that impact this epigenetic consideration, right? For me in this space, like very much considering all of these things. But I also think there is something so stunning to look at in terms of like pairing rest and self-care with this conversation, because I think it is so hard for so many of us to rest, to pause, especially in the United States, because that is not extremely valued and oftentimes judged. And so much of our worth is placed in productivity and output. And I think there's a lot of work being done right now to kind of counteract that, which is beautiful. But to look at rest as a celebration of the way you are alchemizing your inheritance, profound, deeply, deeply profound. That is like, even thinking of just one generation for me in terms of my parents came from very, very, very little and sacrificed so much to give me and my brother a life that they could not have imagined. And because of that, there is often this guilt switch that flips on when I take a nap in the middle of the day. And it's like, fuck, my mom and dad like hustled their asses off for years so that you can sit here and nap. Like,
yes,
come on.
literally, yes. The
But
answer
it's
to
like,
that question is yes.
yes. Yes, exactly. And it is, what a beautiful act, physically embodying of gratitude in that moment, right? That is
Yeah.
like, I'm doing this joyously, gratefully, honoringly of
Yeah.
all that has been gifted in that way,
Yeah.
right? I very profound paradigm shift for me in like my work with self-care and worth. But I do kind of want to go back a little bit to this conversation of what we inherit in a lot of different ways, both like we all have generational stuff that we're inheriting, right? But considering me as a white person, like the violence that is also being inherited. And something you said earlier when you were talking about your story was that truth is needed for reconciliation. And I love that, because how can you apologize for something that you don't understand, right? Like, we've all experienced what that feels like when someone's like, oh, I'm sorry. And it's like, okay, but you don't get it. So
Yeah.
it doesn't, like, even if it's this little thing, like a friend says something that hurts your feelings, right? But we all can relate to that. Pulling that up to a broader scale of, okay, but you don't understand, like, how we need a space for truth in this reconciliation. Talk to me. What I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a good question in there, but I
Well,
feel
riff
like
on
you
those
probably have
things.
thoughts. Yeah.
Let's just riff. Let's just
Yeah.
float through the themes. I mean, yeah. What we've all gotten that kind of apology that's like, so sorry if your feelings were hurt.
Yeah.
So sorry for you.
Hmm.
And that doesn't feel good, right? I think something that I tell people a lot, and my own vantage around conflict, is that conflict is usually bid for connection,
Mm.
right? When I am in conflict with you, when I say to you, Reese, you hurt my feelings, that is a bid for me to be able to continue to be in connection with you. Because if you keep hurting my feelings, our relationship will erode and then we will lose each other.
Hmm.
So when I say, hey, yo, baby girl, I don't like how you said that. Can we talk about that? Let's unpack. This is me vulnerably saying, dear one, you hurt me and I need your help to stay in connection with you because that's what I want.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think as we think about any type of harm that's ever been done, in order for that harm not to do irrevocable harm, connection has to be reestablished.
Mm.
Someone has to be able to say, this is the specific way that you harmed me. This is what I need to be well going forward. And the person on the listening end of that message needs to dance in impact of their actions
Mm.
more than the intent, right? Because we've all also had the apology that says, hey, I'm so sorry that I hurt your feelings, which is already better than sorry that your feelings were hurt, which is
Right.
passive voice. Who hurt the feelings? Who did it? Who done it? The mystery,
Right. Who
right?
had the knife in the library?
Who had the rope in the study? Like,
Right.
okay, so it's already better than that, but
Yeah.
doesn't show that you understand me, that you understand the harm, right? Rushing to, I'm so sorry that I hurt you, but here are this list of mitigating circumstances. That's for you and how you feel. That's not for me and how I feel,
Yeah.
right? So we have to be able to engage with the impact. Yes, we can hold space in our human hearts to know that, shit, I really hurt that person. And that wasn't what I tried to do. And look what happened anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, baby girl, like, you're human. It sucks. Yes. And you hurt someone, right? And so I think that's true of interpersonal, like one-on-one relationships, but I also think you can extrapolate
Yeah.
those things to larger harms, right? And
Absolutely.